Yeah. So today, in our previous sessions, hello. So fine. Yeah. Let's start the session. In our previous sessions, so we have successfully completed the basic JavaScript. So JavaScript means nothing but the ES5 code we have completed. So the ES now let's go to somewhat overview of this one. So what we have learned it, so that we'll start the new concepts that we are learning right now. So if I open this notepad, now let's say that up to now we have learned the JavaScript, right? So JavaScript, so many things we have learned. We have learned about the data types, loops. These are all the things we have learned it. So almost all the main concepts we have learned. We have learned about the DOM, traversing the DOM, functions, okay, objects. We have learned about the objects, and also what I can say, so functions, objects. These are some of the things we have learned it. Now the things what we have learned up to now, the concepts what we have learned up to now. So these all concepts will work in all the browsers. Okay, so there is no need for us today to fear about this one. So everything will work in all the browsers. So there is no problem for this one. In all the versions and all those things, starting from the JavaScript when it has been introduced. So these are the concepts up to now what we have learned. It will work in all the browsers. Now, as we are progressing, so progressing means so we are going on moving forward. So the JavaScript which was introduced at the olden time means so when it was first introduced, okay, so it has some concepts, and going on what they thought was, so they need to implement a newer versions. That means include so every programming language or every software needs an upgradation. So need an upgradation. In the same scenario, JavaScript also, so it has evolved so much. So these days it has evolved very rapidly. So very rapidly it has evolved in such a way that so JavaScript is the main thing which will be used in almost all the applications, or in all type of softwares will be using this JavaScript. So now let's say that the code what we have learned up to now, so this is only limited thing only. The JavaScript which we are trying to learn right now, so it is very vast. So now we learn only some of the concepts. The code what we have learned up to now, actually in the programming level we used to call this one as in JavaScript, okay, but what we can say is in technical way and all those things we will not call it as in JavaScript, we will call it as an ECMAScript. Actually basically this JavaScript we used to call as an ECMAScript only, but for readability and all those things we used to call this one as in JavaScript. Okay, so as the syntax, so I don't know about the historic reasons why it was named as JavaScript. Maybe the syntax looks like Java, so because of that reason, so they named it as a JavaScript, something like that. But actually the name of this one is not a JavaScript, it is called as an ECMAScript. Okay, and now the version, so the JavaScript version when it was first introduced or something like that, so we have ES3 code. First it was introduced something like ECMAScript version 1, ECMAScript version 1, version 2, version 3, like this. So now up to ES5, okay, ECMAScript version 5. So we can say that the code what we have learned in our previous sessions is nothing but it comes under the ECMAScript 5th version. Okay, until recent days 2015. So it is also called as in 2015 also. Until 2015. So this is the code we will be using. So before 2015. So sorry, before 2000 up to 14 onwards we will be using. Okay. So now in 2015, so a very rapid change has came in the JavaScript, and we used to call it as an ECMAScript 6, okay, but it was released in the year ECMAScript 2015. So we will call it as an ECMAScript 2015 also. In short way, the next version we will call it as an ES6. Right now the version right now it is running as the ECMAScript 2021, okay, 2021 it is running. So with the version 2022, I think it is not yet released. So every year, so the new version is releasing, some of the features are getting added into this one. But the major change has occurred in the ECMAScript 6 actually. So ECMAScript 6 is a very big, so what I can say is something like very bigger step they have took. So ES5 and ES6 will become entirely different. So because of that reason, so we will be talking about ES5 as a separate and ES6 as a separate. From ES6 onwards, So you will be having a different syntax and everything. So from ES6 onwards only, it has been started with a different syntax thing. So the code right now, what you will be seeing around the JavaScript and all those things is based on the ES6 code only. But when in 2015, so now if you try to see this 2015, the year 2015 is not too far, right? So it is not past. So it is between this, now it is 2022, 2015 is just, it's 5 or 6 years, 6 years, 7 years back only. There may be a users who may be using the OS versions which was released in 2015 also. It was not long back, right? So now the browsers or OS operating systems which was using older, so they will be having these older browsers. Now these older browsers doesn't support this ECMAScript 6. In future might be. So for example, if you come to 2032, so ES6 will become as a standard thing. So at that time some ES15 or something like this, so ES 2032 will be released, so that it will be far more advanced than ES6. Now ES6 we will make it as a base, but right now ES5 is the base. Okay, so this is the thing you need to understand it. So tomorrow 2032 going on, ES6 or ES7 will become the base. So right now we don't have that one, so it was released recently means 7 years back only. So we need to make it as ES5 base, so that so that all the browsers should support it. Now, but now it is also mandatory that you should learn the syntax of ES6. So why? Because going on tomorrow, so the ES6 syntax will become more common and more popular. ES6 will go on slowly fade away. That is the thing we need to understand it. So now we understood the basic ECMAScript introduction. So why this ECMAScript is there? So now this is nothing but a latest version. So you can think of it as a latest version. So this is the latest version. It has been released. So now if you go to the backend thing, if you consider this backend and the front end is entirely different actually. So don't compare with the backend and the front end. Why? Because backend, for example, let's say that we have a .NET programming language. We will be using the backend programming language. Now this .NET version, so every 6 months or every 1 year, they will be increasing the version. So that means they will be getting a new update. Now there is no need that each and every system, so we need to update to .NET 5 or something like that. So there is no need. So we can update only in the server, in our server, to .NET latest version, so that the code what you are writing, so it will be hosted in the server in a such a way that that server supports the latest .NET version, so that you will write the code according to the .NET version only. But whereas in the front end, if you try to see, one second. Yeah, so we are discussing about the front end, right? Whereas in the front end, when we consider about the front end, now the code we will be writing is a JavaScript code. Okay, so the JavaScript will not be hosted in the server, so we will be not be hosted in one place. It will be not hosted in the one place. Now where will the JavaScript execute? JavaScript will execute in the client browser, so in the client system. So client system means nothing but whoever opens that website, in that browser, the JavaScript will be executed. So this is the thing you need to understand. So that means the software upgradation, so the software upgradation of that client, we cannot assume that he is using the latest version, so we cannot assume it. Whereas here in the backend thing, so the .NET is a programming language and server is our own only, so it will be in the cloud or somewhere, whatever the hosting server will be using, we will be using, and it is in our hands, that server. If you want to upgrade this .NET, we can upgrade it. So these all things will be in our hand. So whatever the output that server gives, the client will be able to see it. But whereas the JavaScript, this is not the case. So JavaScript will be executed in the client system, that is nothing but the browser. So we cannot ask the customer or we cannot ask the user that please install the latest browser to access our website. We cannot say like that. Why? Because maybe he has some problem in his system that he cannot update it to the what I can say, newer version. So maybe he has some security problems or anything, we don't know. So we cannot ask him. So we need to show at least the code, the output we need to show it. So this is the problem between the front end and the back end. Now if you write the code in ES6, so if you write the code only in the ES6, now if a customer opens, if a client opens the output, so maybe if he's using the older version or IE11, so he is very interested in IE11 only. He wants to open the websites, all the websites he used to use this IE11 only. Then what we can do, we cannot say that you used to use Chrome, so don't use that IE11. We cannot say that one. So now we need to make sure that our system or our application, at least it should work in the IE11. So basic thing. So you cannot give him the advanced features, the basic features for that one. So we need to give it. So because of that reason, so we need to consider this ES5 only. Okay. Now let's say, now you have now all of them will get about that. So then what is the reason of releasing this ES6 and all those things? So directly we can write in ES5 only, right? So there is what is the need of learning this ES6 and all those things? Now we can learn ES5 and I will try to implement the code in ES5 only. Then what is the need of this one means? So in order to have a readability manner, and also tomorrow that what I can say is the world will be evolving and we all will the softwares will be changing going on. The systems also will be changing. Everything will be changing. So now at that time, so ES5 will fade away and ES6 will come. So at that time there is no need for us to consider about the ES5. So by this time only, so learning this ES6 and all those things is important. So and also 80% of our websites or something like this, so they don't support ES5. They support only ES6 only. Okay, so why? Because only the 5% people around the world are using something, less than 5% only are using around the world IE11 and these IE10 browsers. So other than this less than 5% people, they are all using the latest browsers only. 95% of people are using Chrome, Firefox, IE8, these all things only using. 5% people only they are using some old browsers. So if you don't want to bother about this 5% means, so you can target this 95% people. There is no need to target this 5% people means, then you can use this ES6 and you can go with ES6, not a problem. But you don't want to lose the customers, 5% customers also you don't want to lose it means, then you need to think of this ES5 and ES6 thing. That is the only thing. So this all comes under the business matter and all those things. Technical point of view, so we need to learn the ES6. That is the thing I can tell. So now we can write, now we have a compiler. So actually in our market, so keeping this problem, we got the compilers. We got the compilers in our market actually. We got the compilers in our market. What these compilers will do is, it will take the ES6 code, okay? So it will take the ES6 code, compiles it, and it will convert it into ES5 code, okay? So this is how it will be making. So now you will write the code in the latest, not ES5. So you will be writing in the ES 2021 code only. Whatever the latest features it is coming, you will try to write it in the ES 2021 code. And these compilers will compile it and it will compile it to the ES5 code. So now there is no need to bother about the ES5 thing. Whatever the code you are writing, so it will take care of these all latest syntax and all those things. It will compile it to the ES5 code. So now, so actually this is called, these are not called as in compilers. Why? Because technically we cannot call it as in compilers. We used to call something like compiler. Why? Because we are so much habituated with that compiler word. Normally the compiler means it will take one language code and it will convert it into another language. Okay, it will convert it into another language. So something like, if you take the Java, so it will take the Java code and it will compile it into bytecode or something like this. Okay, so like this you will be having, so is different code, so it should be converted into a different language. So those things will be called as in compilers. So these things, it is taking the JavaScript code and again it is converted into JavaScript code only. It is not converted into C++ or any code. So those are not called as in compilers. Actually we need to call the technical is transpiler. So it will transpile the code. So these are called as in transpilers, but so we'll call it as in compiler only. So these are called as in actually transpilers, not compilers. Compilers means one language, it will take one language, it will convert it into another language. So whatever may be the language, so it will convert another language. But here the situation is, it is taking the language and it is compiling into the same language only, but a different version of the language. Okay, so here if it is taking Java 7 or something like that and it is converting into Java 4 means, so that could not be the case, right? So it is converting Java to Java only. So then we cannot call it as compiler in the same scenario. So here JavaScript converted it. So we will call it as in transpilers. Now, so the common thing which are available in the market, these transpilers are what I can say is compiler series. So one is the Babel, we have Tracer also, and we have another one is a TypeScript compiler. So some of the compilers are also available. So just these are the more popular user one, and this is the most popular user one, Babel thing. Okay, so Tracer is Google's one, but it is deprecated, so they are not right now. They are not. It is not under the development. And this one is a Microsoft one, TypeScript compiler. So this is a little bit different. Let's try to see this one. For example, I will try to show you. For example, let's say first we'll see about the Babel thing. So which is more popular. If you go to this Babel, so this is the Babel website, and here you will be able to see that Babel is the next. Babel is a JavaScript compiler. Okay, so they will also say it as a compiler. Because of that reason, we'll also call it as a compiler. Now use next generation JavaScript. So we call it as a next generation JavaScript, means the latest generation JavaScript. So you can use the next generation JavaScript and it will be compiled it. So now here you can use it, try it out. So here, let's say that this is the code. Okay, so now here the compiled code you will be having. So here I will be writing the latest JavaScript code. For example, let's say that where x is equal to 10. Okay, I will be writing function at a comma b, and this is our ES5 code. So you need to understand this is our ES5 code. I will try to say that where c is equal to a plus b. Okay, and return c. So this is our code. So that is that is compiling. Right side you will be able to see the compiled code. I am writing the compilation of something like 10 comma 20. Okay, so if I didn't give, so maybe you may get a so it is not getting an error. Okay, so if you don't give the semicolon also, it is taking everything and is writing. For example, let's say that I haven't given this one, so I have kept it as x10 only. So now, okay, let's keep it like this one. So now I have written the code, what I can say, in a ES5 code. Now it has compiled that one into an ES5 code. So you will be able to see, right? It has compiled it into ES5 only. So there is no what I can say is there is no magic in this one. So now what I will try to do is I will try to convert this code into a latest generation code. I will try to write it. Let x is equal to 10. Okay, so it has converted into where. So I will try to use something like where add is equal to. So I will try to take a comma b. So I will try to do a plus b. Okay. So now see here you will be able to see that the code has been converted. So I am calling this add comma 10 comma 2. Okay. So now here the code I have written is 3 lines code only. So or otherwise I can use this let. I can use this constant also. I can use whatever the latest thing I am using. So now here the code I am trying to write. So previous one it was there something around. I will try to copy this. The same scenario I am trying to implement it, but I am writing in a latest way. So here this is the code I have written in the ES7. Now here in these 3 lines it has finished. We have finished the code. Okay. So here it is telling that x is already declared and all those things. So let's try to comment out. Let's try to comment out this all the code. Okay. Now this code. So within this all code I have written in only in 3 lines of code. So the same output, we got the same output only. So without any problem, we got the same output. So this is how the Babel compiler will compile it code. And we have also the TypeScript compiler also. Let's try to see it. Try to open this TypeScript. Let's try to open that one. Somewhere you will be having online. Okay, we'll try to see. In my browser only I want to try it. Okay. Okay, here we are able to see the output, right? So here we are able to see it. I think you people will be able to see the. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So now let's try to copy the same code what I have written here. So the same code I will try to copy it and I will try to paste it here. It has not been converted, right? Somewhere we need to give the target is it should be converted into ES5. Okay, we need to give the target. Now see the code has been converted. So you can give the target also. For example, ES 2015 means, so if you try to see here, the code is like this only. Now I want to convert it into ES5. So now if I try to close it, so the same code, whatever the code I have written it here, so you'll be able to see the output. So the same thing, Babel compiler, what is the compiler, the output it has given? It has given the same way only. Okay. But here it is removing the spaces and all those things it is doing. But here it is trying to maintain the spaces and all those things. Okay, that is a different thing. But one and the same only we are getting. And we have another thing also, something like tracer or something. I don't know the name, exact name. Yeah. So this is the compiler. Same code we'll try to copy and sir. Yeah, here this is the demo. And here let's try to paste the same thing. So here you'll be able to see where x is equal to 10. The same code you'll be able to see it. But it is wrapping in a runtime function, the tracer runtime module. It is trying to wrap it in a function. So this code looks like somewhat what I can say is weird. So that compilation file, when we are trying to see it, so this is looking somewhat weird, right? So because of that reason, this has failed. So Babel and the TypeScript compiler is the most popular compilers which we will be using. So this is all about this, what I can say is ES6 code. So just what I am trying to tell you is the code, whatever we are writing in the ES6 code, if you want in the older thing means, so there are so many tools for us to support. So that we can write our code without any problem and the compilers will take care of that one. So if you want ES5 code means, no need to, if the client asks that I want to support in the older browsers means, there is no need to worry. The code, whatever the code, the latest code you are trying to write it, you can write it and you can take help of those online tools and you can convert it into ES5 code. So that is the thing I want to tell you. This is all about this. What I can say is ES6 introduction. So we have learned about this, what is an ES6 and what is this ECMAScript 6. What is the difference between ES5 and ES6 also we have seen it. Now let's move on to this ES6 concepts. The first concept what I want to explain you is today is about this let and const. Okay, so these are the two variable declarations that has been added in the ES6. So I told you, right, ES6 is the major changes it has been released. So ES6, before ES6, here ES6 we used to have only, for example, let's try to say where x is equal to 10 means, so we have only for declaration only where. Now we can also include it this where, or we can also initialize with the let, and also we can use it with the const. So what is the difference between this where, let and constant? Let's try to see. Let's say that we are having where x is equal to 10. Okay, I am having function something like fn and I will try to do console.log of x. Okay, I will try to do console.log of x and I will try to call this function. Now this is our older way, and if you try to see the output, I'm able to get the 10 as output. So why? Because this is in the global scope. Okay, now if I try to add another variable, something like where x is equal to 10, okay, sorry, where x is equal to 20, and here I will try to print console.log x. Let's try to see. Now what is the output? So now 20 is the output. Here we have mentioned it the way same name, where x is equal to 10 and where x is equal to 20, but when it comes to the outside it has been 10. Why? Because so this where x is in the local scope, whereas the where x is in the global scope. For example, if I didn't declare with that where means, now it is trying to access this global scope, and now x will become 2020. Now it will print the output as 2020. These things we have learned in our previous sessions about the global scope and the local scope thing. Now let's try to see this in the let and constant, how it will behave. So actually let, if you try to see, it is a block scope. So they will call it as a block scope. Okay, I will try to show you. For example, let's say that I am having let x is equal to 10. So I am having a function x, okay, something like this. Oh, sorry, function fn. If I try to show you console.log of x, and I will try to call this function, and let's try to see the output. So what could be the output here? The same output. So if we whatever the output we have seen with the where, if I declare it to the where, the same output we are able to get it. Not a problem. Fine. Let's change it to let, and what I will try to do is here let x is equal to 20. Okay, and I will try to console.log of x also. So now what is the output when we declare it var? We have got the output as here 20 and here this one as 10. So now if we try to see the output, the same output we are able to get it. So that means in these scenarios the let and var is working in the same way. So when this x is declared as a global scope, so local scope, so it is behaving in the same way only. Now where the problem comes is here, let's try to see it. So I have mentioned it as var x is equal to 10. Okay, now I will try to write if of true. So I am writing a condition, if condition. Right. Now I will try to say something like x is equal to 20. Okay, now I will try to do the console.log of x. Now I will try to do console.log of x here. Now what could be the output here? Now what could be the output? So if I try to show the output, 2020 is the output. For example, let's say that instead of declaring it here, okay, I try to declare it where x is equal to 20 here. Now what I am trying to do, so instead of declaring at the top, I am declaring it in the if thing. So now still if we declare in the if thing also, it is a global scope only. Why? Because it is not a function or anything. Now if I try to see the output, similar, we are able to get this one as 2020. Now let's try to see this one as in the let thing. So now what I will try to do here, let x is equal to 10. I will try to do that x is equal to 10 and I changed it to x is equal to 20. Now let's try to see the output. Now if we try to see the output, this one is 2020 only. It's fine, it's correct only. Now what I will try to do here, I will try to remove this one and I will try to make it as let x is equal to 20. So now this x is defined in only in the if block. Now if you try to see the output, what could be the output here? Now we got an error. Previously in the var we didn't get an error, we got the 20 as an output. Now it is telling that x is not defined. Where it is telling, so for this console.log it is able to print it, but in the down console.log it is telling that x is not defined. So what is the problem here? What is the issue we are getting is here, let is a block scope. Okay, let is a block scope. So you need to understand, so let is a block scope, var is a global scope. Okay, sometimes this one will behave as a local scope also. Local scope means nothing but a functional scope which is defined in the functions. So it is called as a local scope or functional scope, whatever the name it may be. Now you need to understand that let is a block scope. Block scope means, so this is an if block, for block. We will be able to call it as if block, for block, like this, right? So if block, so in this block only this let will behave like this. For example, let's say that I mentioned it as let x is equal to 10. Okay, now we have two declarations. If you mention this one as a var, we will used to get an error that already x is defined, but here we will not get an error. Now this x is defined in the global block, so main block. This is a main block, total code block this is. Now in this x is defined in this if block only. Okay, now if you try to see the output, now you get an output of 20 comma 10. Why? Because in this block this x is 20. So this x is different and this x is different. Why? Because this is a block scope. In this block only this x will be 20. When it comes out of this block, now this x will become 10 only. Okay, if I try to do something like x plus 10 or something, whatever the thing you do also, you are manipulating the x which is present in this block only. You are not manipulating in the code block. If you try to manipulate it here, then it will be changed. Okay, x plus 100. So now you are trying to change it in the code block. So now it will be 100 or 110. Okay. So this is about the let block scope thing. So this is the main thing you need to understand. So let is a block scope, var is a global scope, and so var behaves as a functional scope and global scope also. Let also in the same scenario, functional scope also it will behave. We have already seen it. So this is about this let thing. So normally we used to use let only all the time. So why? Because so you need to understand the difference. So minute difference will be there between the var and the let. When this var will become undefined, when this let will become undefined. So you need to understand it very clearly. So this is also one of the interview questions they will be asking. What is the difference between let and var means? So you can show this example, something like this. So then they will realize it. So the another one what we need to learn is that, so we have understood about this let thing. Now next concept is, we have also another type of declaration that is nothing but const. That is nothing but constant. You need to understand that this is also a block scope. Okay, but what is the difference? I will try to tell you. Let's say that constant x is equal to 10. I am having constant x is equal to 10. Now I will try to do, so I will try to print console.log of x. Now if I try to see the output, so we got an output of 10. So it's fine, it's correct. Now I want to make it as x is equal to x plus 10, something like this. Okay. Now let's try to see the output. If we try to see the output, we got an error something like assignment to the constant variable. So as this x is a constant, okay, so we cannot do the manipulation with the constant. Manipulation means nothing but we cannot assign a value again to the constant variable. So now if we try to do something like x is equal to 100 or something like this, again we are assigning the value to the x. So this is nothing but this one you will get an error. So why? Because we are assigning to a constant variable which is not possible. So this one we already know. So if you are coming from the programming background and all those things, so you'll be able to understand that constant variable, if it is initialized, so we cannot initialize it again, or we cannot assign any value. So because of that reason, for example, what they will try to do is they will try to keep it as age, something like capital letters. So that in our programming language we will be able to understand that this is a constant, we cannot assign, or we cannot do it. So we can make use of that value only, that's it. So we cannot manipulate this age value. Now I will try to show you one different scenario. Let's say that I am having an array of 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I will try to do the console.log of array. Now let's try to see the output. So we are able to see that it is a constant. So we are just making use of that constant, that's it. So we are not manipulating anything. So fine. Now let's try to see that ARR, so same array. I will try to do something like 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I will try to do the console.log of array. So I am trying to change this array. Okay, I am trying to change this array. Now you will get an error. So why? Because you are trying to change the constant variable. So I am trying to change the values inside this one. So because of this one, so it is raising an error. Okay, fine. So it's correct only. Now what I will try to do is arr.push of 10. I will try to change the data inside this one. Now 1, 2, 3, 4 is there. I am changing the data. I am adding extra data. There's something like 10. Now this one also it should throw an error. Why? Because I am trying to change the values inside this array thing. Now let's try to see the output. Now we got an output. So now nothing has happened. Now the meaning of the constant has been changed. Why? Because the values of this constant array should remain always constant only. It should not change. But here it is changing. So 10 has been added. I am able to add it 10. If I want to remove it, I can remove it. So now if I am trying to change it, so I can change the values also. That means, so like a normal variable, I am able to manipulate this array. In the same scenario, object also I can do it. So for example, if I try to have an object, name is equal to Leela. Okay. And if I try to use this one, so let's try to change it, take it as object. And if I try to change this one, so if I try to change this one, now I am able to get this one. Now here what I will try to do is object.name is equal to Krishna or something like this. I will try to use it. Now if I try to see the output, it is trying to change it. So without any problem it is changing. So but the meaning of the constant has been changing. So what is the thing it is happening is, so we have already learned about this one. Just I want to remind you. So we know that the data types comes under two categories. That is nothing but primitive and the reference types. Okay. So this is also one of the interview questions they will be asking you. So they will try to do this one and they will tell that why this constant variable is changing. So it is a constant, right? Why I am able to manipulate the values, they will ask you. So they need to be able to tell the difference. So what is the reason? So we know that primitive and the reference concept. So primitive data types and the reference data types. So now array and object comes under the reference data types. So if you try to see the array value, so if I try to use this array value, something like 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one will not actually hold the values 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one will hold the memory pointer of this one. So pointer means nothing but, so this one has a pointer of something around 24 location. It has been saved. Okay, this 24 will be saved in this array. Now if I try to do array.push, okay, of 10, now what will happen? So 1, 2, 3, 4 will be pushed to 10 will be pushed, but this 24 location will be like this only. That means ARR value is still 24 memory location only. It is not changing. But when I assign it to ARR is equal to 234 to 23 comma 24 something like this, now a new memory will be created for this array and it will be allocated a value memory location of 25, let's say, and this 25 will be assigned to this array. Now this is not possible. Why? Because it is already referencing to this memory location of 24. Now we are changing it to 25. Now this is not possible, but we can change the values so that the memory location is same only. So this is correct. So that is the difference. So that is the thing it is happening actually. So when you are declaring it as a constant internally, it will check that this value has been changed or not, but this is not holding the actual values, it is holding the memory pointer. Now if you try to insert the values or delete the values, anything, whatever the thing you do also, memory pointer will not change, only the values inside this memory pointer only will change. So that means this pointer value is not changing. Because of that reason it is allowing to us to change. But whereas if you want to assign a new array or a new object, then the pointer location will be changed. Now it will try to assign this pointer location to this variable, which should not happen. Why? Because this is a constant thing. Because of that reason the error is raising. So this is the thing you need to understand about this constant thing, why it is allowing to change the values. So constant is also a block scope. If loop and all those things, it will work in the same way as let works. So constant, but the main difference between let and constant is this one only. Constant will not allow to change the values. So if it is initialized means the value will be like that only. Exceptional case is object and arrays. So you can do whatever you want. You need to understand it. And let means, so it will do the same thing. So you can manipulate it, you could reassign it, you can do whatever the things you want, you can change it. Where is a different thing, you already know about this. So this is about this let and constant in the ES6. Now let's try to see about this variable hoisting. So variable hoisting, how it will work in the ES6, let's try to see. Variable hoisting, if you try to understand x is equal to 10, I tried to do something like console.log of x. So without initializing I'm doing, so I will try to do this x. Now if I try to print the value, we are able to get the output. So why? Because normally what the JavaScript will try to do is it will try to read all the thing, whatever the uninitialized variables are there, so it will go at the top and it will declare those variables as something like this. This is called as a variable hoisting. So if you maintain it as use strict or something like this, so this could not be possible. Okay, so now you will be able to get the output, but if you don't declare it, now this could not be possible. Now this one is showing, so leave it. So normally it will not be possible. So it will throw you an error. So these are all the errors you are able to see it, right? Normally what it will try to do is, so if you mention these all the var x and all those things, you need to mention it. So now in ES6 how it will try to do variable hoisting. So how it will behave with the variable hoisting thing. I will try to do the same thing. X is equal to 10 console.log of x. Okay, I will try to do the let x. Now let's try to see the output. If we try to see the output, see, cannot access x before initialization. So that means whatever the x you are trying to do the let thing, if you try to change it into the let thing, now it is telling that you cannot use this x variable after the initialization. So that means you need to must and should mention this one at the top. So previously in the olden JavaScript, so they have took this one. So if you mention it at the bottom also, so they have accepted it and they took this code and tried to mention it at the top. So where they hoisted the all variables at the top. But this time the JavaScript, the latest JavaScript will not do those all things. So you need to be aware of that one, that variable hoisting and all those things will not work. So now if you are trying to use this let x like this down, and if you are trying to mention it, it will tell you an error that cannot access x before initialization. So that means I need to initialize it before using only. So this is the common way. That is the, what I can say is muddiest way or stupid way of writing the code. So without initializing the variable, so if I try to mention it at the top, at the bottom, so there is no meaning for that one, but still the JavaScript works. Why? Because of the variable hoisting feature. The JavaScript will hoist all the variables at the top. But right now, so ES6 features and all those things, so this will not allow those all things. So if you try to mention it at the bottom, it will throw you an error. Okay, if you don't initialize it also, it will make it as a var. So it will take it as a var. So already the older version is there, right? So it will not, it is not removed, those all things. So if you mention it as the let only, then the problem comes here. Okay, slowly those things also will be removed, but you need to understand it. So this is about variable hoisting, how the variable hoisting will be there in the ES6. Now let's move on to the another concept, that is nothing but the arrow functions. Arrow functions concept. Arrow functions concept means first I will try to show you the traditional way of writing a function. For example, let's say function add a comma b, and we are having a something like where c is equal to a plus b, and I will try to return the c. Okay, so this is the code I will be writing. Now I will try to call this add of 1 comma 2. Now what could be the output here? So we need to console it, because we are returning, right? We will console it. Now if I try to do here, so we got an output of 3. So this is normal ES5 implementation of the functioning thing. So now we have also another implementation in the ES5, something like where add is equal to function. So there is no need to mention that name here, and we can use it like this. And now if I try to do this one, we are able to get the output of 3. So this is also valid implementation only. Now what I will try to do is, so here I will try to change it to where a, you can use it as constant. Okay, the latest thing which we are trying to implement. So I can remove this function, and I can use a is equal to and a greater than symbol here, and I can use it like this. So this is also a valid way. Now if I try to see the output, then also I am able to get the output. So this is called as an arrow function. Now what I have did here, so instead of using this function, I have removed this function, that's it, and I used this is equal to greater than. So that is the thing. Now for example, let's say that we are able to have this one where c is equal to a plus b and all those things, right? I can remove this one, and I can remove, instead of using variable and all those things, I can do a plus b, right? So this is the normal thing. Now if I try to see the output, I am able to get the 3 output, same output only. Now if you are having only single statement in a function, there is no need to mention these braces, so directly you can use this one. Okay, and there is no need to keep the comma also. And if you are having a single statement, there is no need to add this return value also. Why? Because if you are having only one function or only one statement, so automatically this one will be written. Now this is the shortest way of writing the code. Now if I try to see the output, then also I am able to get the same output. Okay, if you are having multiple functions, then you need to mention with a bracket. Okay, now you need to return, now you need to use the return thing. Now this one is something like, we can remove this all the return, and we can remove this one, and I can remove this all the things. So there is a semicolon, you can use it, not a problem. So if I try to run this one, we are able to get the output. Okay, so this is the shortest form of implementing this. This is the shortest form of implementing a function. This is an arrow function actually. How this arrow functions works means like this it will work. So what I can say in this arrow functions, now you understood about these arrow functions, right? You can also this is the shortest form implementation. And what I can say is, for example, let's say that these type of arrow functions, how we can use it. Let's say that I will try to remove this output. Okay, and I will try to use something like set interval. We have learned in our previous sessions about this set interval thing. What does this set intervals does is, let's say that set interval, normally in a ES5 implementation I will try to do it. I will try to use this function, okay, anonymous function or a closure function, we can call it as. For every 2000 seconds I want to print something like console.log of hello. So what is this code? It is implementing, so it is trying to use the set interval for every 2000 milliseconds, that is nothing but divided by 1000, it will become 2 seconds. For every 2 seconds it will print console.log hello. Hello it will be, so for every 2 seconds our code will say hello hello. So now let's try to see the output. 2 seconds hello, and again after 2 seconds. 2 seconds is very much big, say it as 1 second only. Now let's try to see, we got a hello, and after 1 second it will go on telling that infinitely it will tell the hello thing. Now here we have used this older way of implementation of this function, right? Now I will try to remove this function. Okay, now what I will try to do is, so here I can use something like arrow function here, and I can use the same thing. So if I try to clear it and if I try to run it again, so you will get the same output only now without any problem. and as we are having only single statement, so you can remove this curly braces and you can use this one like this, and you can remove this you can remove the semicolon also, and you can use it like this. So this is the shorter way of implementation. Now if I try to see the output, so then also you'll be able to see the same output. So you'll be able to see the same output without any problem. You'll be able to get the same output. So this is also this is how we will be using the arrow functions in this what I can say in our JavaScript. In our JavaScript, this is the newer implementation. Okay, so this is the thing you have understood, right? Now let's try to see that how this keyword, okay, this keyword behaves in a arrow functions. Let's try to see it. For example, let's say that I am having a function. Function of function. I don't want to confuse you. I will tell you in a simpler way only, or otherwise in the realistic way I will tell you. For example, let's say that I am having a button. Click here. Okay, I will try to take this button element, catch this button element, document dot, let's try to remove this console, document dot query selector of button. So normally I am using this CSS selectors only. So whatever the CSS selectors we have learned, attribute selector, tag selector, these are all the things you can use it here. A plus B, A greater than B, A tilde B, these all things we have used it, right? Those all things you can use it. Document dot query selector of button. Okay, now in this button I will try to add the event listeners. So these all things we have already learned. I will try to add event listener for this one. Add event listener button, add event listener of click event. I want to use the click event and I want to execute a function. Okay, now I will try to print a function. I will try to create a function. Now I will try to print the console.log of this. Now if I try to check the output here, let's remove this HTML thing. Now we have a button element, and let's try to see this console also. So now we have a button. I am capturing that button. I am listening to the click event of that button. So whenever the user clicks on this button, I need to execute this function. So that is the code I have written here. Now I am printing this thing. So now if I try to run with JS and click here, now you are able to get, we are getting such a big object, long object, we are able to get it. Let's go on to top of this one. Now here you are able to get that this is nothing but a HTML button element. Why we are getting this one as an HTML button element? We have already seen about the object in our objects we have seen. So now here for this function, that this will be nothing but whatever the thing you will be having on the left hand side. So that will become this. So here you are having a button element. Because of this reason you are having this button element thing. Okay, so because of the reason you are having this. Now for example, if I call this function normally, directly if I call this function, so I am calling this function directly. So now run with JS. If I try to run, so now you are getting this thing. Now this time what is this variable? How can I go top? Yeah. Now this is a window. Now here this function, when I am calling this one, now this is a window. Why? Because in the left hand side you will be having a window dot function. So you will be calling something like window dot function only. So indirectly we are calling it as window dot function only. But we are not using this window thing. Everything will be under the window object. Why? Because I am working in the window itself. In the browser window itself I am working. So that is the reason everything comes under window only. So because of that reason, so there is no need to use this window. So defaultly, indirectly, everything will be under the window only. So window dot document. Here don't use this window dot button element. Why? Because so this one belongs to you. Have a variable with the name button element. Don't confuse with those like those things. You will get confused. So this document itself is in window. Now this function is declared normally in the window. We have declared it. So now you can use it normally. If you want to call outside means you can use it like this. Now this function is called by a button element. Now this will becomes to the button. So this function now it will belongs to this button element. Now this one belongs to this window element. So like this you need to remember. Now here this one is normal way. So for example, let's try to say that I will implement in such a way like this. Okay, otherwise we can use like this also, not a problem. let function is equal to, let's see, console.log of this. Okay, so I am using the arrow functions. Now let's clear it off. Run with JS. Cannot access function. Okay, so we are using this function, we need to use it. Or something like this. I don't want to confuse these all things, so let's make it as this one only. So now we are having this one arrow function. Now I will try to clear it off. So run with JS. Now what is that? This we are able to get it. Let's try to see the output. So this is the window. Okay, now what I will try to do here, I will try to click on this button. I clicked on this button. I did click or what? What is this one? You are not able to execute this one. Let's try to remove. So where is equal to, so let's try to implement here the reference. So here I will try to implement direct like this. So the y to do these all things. So now let's try to do console.log of this. I will try to do the console.log of this. Now if I try to show you the output, editor is behaving differently. Now if I click on this click thing, now if you try to see that this thing, I try to show you that this thing. Now what is the this we are getting window. So here still this function is called by this button element, then also still we are getting window. For example, if I try to make it as a function, so older thing, so older way of implementing this function. Okay, so older way of implementing this function means try to implement like this. So older way of implementing this function means like this we will be implementing. So I will be using console.log of this. I will try to implement. Okay, so now what I am trying to use it is all the what I can say. So now if I try to say I am using the older implementation of this one, if I click on this one, so now here you will be able, now here you are able to see the HTML button element, but when I converted this one to the arrow function, okay, now if I try to use this one, so we are getting the window element, right? We are getting the window element. Why? Because so this arrow function will take the this as the superset. This superset means at the outside. So outside, what is the this here? It is nothing but a window. So it will take the router element, this only it will take. So whereas the function, it will take whatever the left hand side who has called this one, so it will try to take that this. So normally if you want to take the root, this means what you will be doing in the older function method, so you will be using this bind call applies dot bind of window, so dot bind of object, we will be using that one. So that you want to manipulate this in the older functions, you will be doing like this. But whereas in this one, in this arrow functions, that this will be taken in the router in the global scope, that window this only, it will not take that button element this. So that is the thing I want to explain you. So there are some advantages and disadvantages. If you want, you can use this bind thing, or this one also you can bind it, but I want to explain you that how this behaves in a arrow functions and how this behaves in the normal function implementation. I want to show you. That is the main thing I want to show you. And another one, so the another thing what I want to explain you in this one is, let's close this out. And another thing what I want to explain you is the, for example, let's say that function add x comma y or a comma b, will take it a comma b, and I will try to do return a plus b. So this is a common thing. Okay, now if I send only the add 10, and you will get an output. So I'll try to do the console.log. Okay, or otherwise instead of doing this one, we'll try to console.log of a and console.log of b. Okay, we want to check these things. So what are the a values and the b values? No addition or anything. So just you want to. So now I am passing only one variable, only one value. Sorry, only one value. That means a value is only 10. Now what could be the b value for this one? As we already know, this will define in our arrow functions or any function, In ES6 we can also define a default parameter for this one. So like already normal other languages, we can also define the default parameter. Now if I try to mention it as 100, let's say I have defined it as 100. Now what could be the output here? 10 and 100, right? So 10 and 100, you'll be able to see this 10 and 100. For example, let's say that you can also use something like b is equal to a. So now I am already having this a value, so you can also use this b. Now what could be the output of this one? 10 and 10. So you can also use it like this. For example, let's say that I want to use it something like a is equal to b. So this is not possible. Why? Because JavaScript is a sequential execution. Now you, without initialization of this b variable, you are trying to assign it. Now let's see the output. So now you are getting it as undefined. So now for example, let's say that a is equal to b, b is an undefined. So it is an undefined, it is trying to take the value. For example, if you try to see here, yeah, you got an error that cannot access b before initialization. You should not do it like this. Whenever you are having, so one thing is, so you cannot take it a is equal to 10 and b. So mandatory parameters also you cannot use it. It will work, but it will always be an undefined. All the time what you need to do is, whatever the required fields are there, you need to use it at the front. Okay. So these all what I can say is not required fields, things default values you can assign it at the end. So this is the normal convention. And also you can do this logical operations and all those things also you can do it 10 by 2 if you want. You can also do these things. So it will be 5 and I am not mentioning it here, right? So 10 I will try to pass it. So now you can use this a 5 comma 10. So these are all the things it will work. So these are all things also we can also pass this, what I can say, default parameters also we can pass it. So this is all about these arrow functions, different types of arrow functions we have seen. And also one thing also I will try to explain you. So we are having something like var, or let anything you can use it. Var function is equal to, let's say, a comma b. Okay, I am using something like console.log of. So this is the common scenario. I will try to call the function of 10 comma 10. Okay, so this is the output. Now if I try to print this one, so you'll get an output of hello. It's fine. Now if you are having only one value, so let's say that if it is taking only one value, so you can remove this one and you can use it like this, hello. So now if you are having only one value, there is no need to keep the brackets also. Now this one is also correct. You can also able to print it, but you are not having any one of the things, means then you need to mention it as empty brackets like this. So that is mandatory. Okay. So now if you are having only one value, means you can use it like this also. That is not a problem. So these are the different ways how we can write the arrow functions. So are you able to understand these all things? In the next session, we will learn about the objects, how we can, what are the newer ways of creating the objects, not newer ways, what we can see, the objects declarations, how it will be in the ES6, so ES5 thing, the difference and all those things, you'll try to see it. So then you will understand these all things. So these are the main things, arrow functions, let constant. So these all the things are one of the main important concepts in the ES6. These are the major changes actually. So the function declaration, everything has been changed. The value of this also has been changed. And the let constant block scope also we have learned it. So then in the tomorrow session, we'll learn about these objects, template returns, these all things we'll try